the sound of that tractor means it's time for us to go to work. Welcome to the Give Us the Dirt podcast, powered by Hoopah Grading Company. My name is Brandon, and I am your host. So I'm going to ask you to hang with me for just a little bit this morning because I want to remind everyone why we started the Give Us the Dirt podcast. It was not to promote Hoopah Grading Company. Heck, we've even had our competitors on this podcast showcasing their businesses. It wasn't because we were bored and had nothing else to do. It wasn't because we wanted to become famous. It was for one reason only, to take back control of the narrative that we've allowed others to craft about this industry that we love so much. As kids, students, young adults, they don't know this industry the way that we do. The story they're hearing about our industry is that it's a decent job to fall back on if you're not cut out for college or for a real job. They're taught to view our industry as a backup plan when plan A doesn't pan out. It's dirty. It's long hours. You'll never be home. You can't make good money, and there's no career path unless you're a family member or have a degree. Folks, that is a bunch of crap. It's head trash. You know it's not true. I know it's not true, but that's the story that they're hearing about our industry. And you know why? Because we're not the ones telling the story. And that's exactly why we started this podcast. We wanted to take back control of the narrative by sharing the stories that inspire and showcase all the reasons that we love this industry so much. And today will be no exception to that. We get to showcase a couple guys that I've gotten to know over the last couple months and really enjoyed hearing their story. Today on the Give Us the Dirt podcast, we're talking to Daniel Hensley and Tony Jasinkski out of Purcellville, Virginia. These guys came in today to represent a company that they have helped grow and that they're excited to continue growing, TJT Corporation.
Yes, sir.
These guys have known each other for a long time, from what I understand, all the way back to middle school. So we're going to dig into their stories a little bit. Guys, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
You guys came in this yesterday from Virginia, right?
That's right. Drove down, left about midday, got here 6 o'clock yesterday evening.
Yeah, it was a good trip.
Yeah, so you guys, we've been talking for a little bit over the last few weeks, and I'm excited to tell a little bit of your story and how we got to know each other. But you guys have listened to enough of this to know how we start things. Matter of fact, you guys even came prepared, which is awesome.
That's right.
Daniel, so Daniel knew I was going to ask him what his wife would say about him and how she would introduce him to a group of strangers. And so he said, honey, I know that this question's going to come up. What would you say? And you actually brought a letter.
Yeah, I had her write it down, put it in an envelope, and I said, I don't want to see it. I'm going to hand it over to Brandon, and hopefully everything's going to be just fine in there.
So I get to read this,
yeah.
right? This is so weird, man. I hope this is good.
Me too. I guess we're about to find out.
This is a Give Us the Dirt first right here, but all right, so here we go. How would you describe your husband to a group of people who do not know him? He is the most amazing man. He's honest, loving, hardworking, and would give you the shirt off his back. He is a fixer of many things, smart, funny, devoted to his wife of 19 years and 3 sons. He is resilient and stubborn. His boys say, if daddy starts something, you know it's going to get done. He is what makes our world go round and my rock. Man, that is awesome. I'm going to give this back to you. You're going to want to hang on to that one.
That's good stuff.
That is good stuff. I like coming prepared.
Got some office decor there.
Tory, what about you? Did you bring a letter?
I don't have a letter, but unfortunately I'm not married anymore. But I do have a great relationship with my ex-wife, who's my son's mother. And much like some business relationships, they don't always work out. People have different priorities and different things going on, but still have a lot of good relationship taking care of our son. And she said that I'm respectful, responsible, and I help her see the other side of any problem or situation. I've always tried to be a pretty big player in perspective. You know, want to see everything from the other side before you render a decision or an opinion. You know, being outspoken there. So I guess that stood out to her. That not to react immediately. You know, take it all in and make an educated decision before you react.
That's a pretty good compliment, especially coming from an ex-wife. That's
just because it doesn't work out doesn't mean that they're not good people and two
Absolutely.
people can't get along. So
absolutely. Well, thank you guys, man. That was cool. I appreciate you coming prepared. I'm gonna have to switch up my question a little bit. People are gonna be ready for it. I like to catch you off guard sometimes. Well, so tell our listeners, tell us who you are, tell us about TJT Corporation and what you guys do. Let's start with you, Tory.
Well, we're TJT. My dad started this company when I was 1 year old, 1986, and started it building houses and morphed into equipment just to facilitate the building of houses. And I guess he found out that it was easier to keep moving dirt, and there was more of that work than there was, didn't get affected as much by the housing crisis. And, just always grew up around equipment is what I always wanted to do. So it was never an option for me. Not that it was forced, but it was just, always what I wanted to do. It was my passion to do that. And I was fortunate to always have that, had many opportunities in my life, and they all started right there. So we're going to dig into that a little bit more. I want to hear more about that. But that's pretty cool that at the age of 1, you're already into this thing with Dad, and he started the business and you've grown up around it. Well, TJT is my father, Tony, my mother, Joan, and me, Tory. So it was, I guess, fortunately for him, they only had 1 kid, so they didn't have to add any other letters after the name. And
Tony, Joan, and Tory.
Yes.
TJT. Okay. Well, I didn't even think to ask that. That's a great. Okay. What about you, Daniel?
So Tory and I go way back. Been friends since 6th grade. Middle school. I think we met in homeroom. And I think it was 10th grade summer. I was 15, and Tory just asked, "Hey, what are you doing this summer? You want to come to work?" And so I started working during the summertime throughout high school, and went to college for a little bit, but realized that wasn't for me. So I ended up coming back to work with them full time. And I've been around for quite a few years now.
I've been here a long time, certainly.
Since 15?
I left once or twice, trying to make sure that this is what I wanted to do. And Tory helped me out there for sure over the years and encouraged me, multiple conversations, things like, sometimes you're just meant for certain things. It took me a little bit longer to figure that out, but yeah, definitely been around here a long time. So altogether, I think it's 20 years or so.
That's incredible. And it's got to be fun that you guys have been able to do this together and have friendship growing up together.
It certainly makes it easier when you got somebody that you can rely on and trust right out of the gate, because you've already built a trust and a bond from being friends. And, we're good people want to be with good people. So, we had good values in general and good work ethic, so it was very easy to work together. We both, started very young in the laborer setting with people and, proving yourself to guys that have worked there for, I guess at that time would have been 14 years, 10 to 14 years, depending who they were. And you really had to work harder than everybody else to prove your worth and your salt, so to speak, to make sure that you're getting the respect that you deserve, because it's just not being handed to you. And
right.
It was very easy for Daniel too, because it was never an option. Like you worked hard and you hustled, and it was very good to have somebody to begin that journey with a long time ago.
That's a good point. I think a lot of times people assume because you have the same last name as the owner of the company that you've been given something. You didn't have to work as hard, but in a lot of aspects, you had to work harder, and you had to prove yourself, and you had to overcome that perception to gain the respect of the team.
I can promise you one thing, that nothing was handed.
Yeah.
Everything was earned. There's no doubt about that.
Well, let's go there. Talk to me a little bit about Dad. Tell me about Dad.
My dad is one of the greatest men you'll ever meet, and he's a hardworking dude. It was perfection. I mean, everything you did had to be perfect, no matter what. Like things that nobody would ever see, they had to be perfect. So perfection was the only option. And then 1A is do it as fast as you can. I mean, literally running for stuff, and I still do it. I mean, I'm not on the job near as much as I used to be, or as I want to be, but I mean, if I see somebody not, without something that I could be a part of getting, I mean, I'm running to go get it, because that's just the way that I was raised. I mean, you didn't hold anybody up. I mean, if there was something happening and they were being held up and you could do something about it, you hustled. And some of that gets lost in today's, 2022 mindset, but try to do our best to reinstill those values to everybody else that, we're all a team and we got to get something done, and we're only as strong as our weakest link. So
did you start working with him as soon as you could? I guess you were a teenager and you were already in the business.
Yeah, single digits. I was going every summer. I couldn't get enough of it. We didn't, at that time, we were doing residential excavating to support, single family home construction, primarily custom homes, digging basements and driveways and septic fields and things like that. And that was fun. I did a lot of that. But I always wanted to be building roads and putting pipe in the ground and moving large dirt and doing infrastructure work. And we can get to that in a little bit, but I was always there working and always a part of it. Even the beginning, like I said, Dad was building houses and, he'd be framing a house and I'd just be digging in the dirt pile. There would be no loader work for a few months while they're building that house, but I was just out there digging because that was the only thing that I ever wanted to do. And fortunate to be able to make that my career and have a part in providing for other families and other people that work for us and help give them a good life too.
I think that's great. And going back to my introduction there, you think about the perception that our industry and this kind of work is a fallback plan, right? It's an option when plan A doesn't come. There was no other plan for you. This was it from day one. This is all you wanted to do.
Yeah, I was able to make that decision. Back in those times, it's still what most parents think of today is, your kid's got to go to college, right? Like my dad was the only one of his 7 brothers and sisters that didn't go to college. He's the only one that owns a business. Take that for what it is or not. All of his brothers and sisters are extremely successful, but he just goes to show you that you don't need a college education to succeed. And I pretty much had to fight not to go to college because if I was going to go, they were not going to be for the right reasons. I can assure you that. And I knew what my career was going to be. And, I could get 4 years of education, real world education and get paid to do it. And it was a good choice. I'm happy that I did because I never would have taken any classes that, 36-year-old 2022 Tory would tell that 17-year-old kid. It would have never happened.
Right.
Wouldn't have been retained either.
And no one told you that you had to do that path. No one said, no, you've got to go to college. You can't pursue this thing that you're passionate about. You can't be a part of the business right now. And they supported that and they encouraged you to go after the thing that you love and not go after, the normal route.
They were hoping that I was going to go to school, but just because that's what the social standard was, right? We're in a pretty affluent area where we come from, and that's literally the standard that everybody wants their kid to go to college. And once I literally laid it out for him, like, this is what I want to do. Like, how are you going to hinder me? I was like, if you force me to do some sort of school, is literally going to hinder my passion and what I want to do in life. And, it wasn't as glorious as this conversation we're having right now, but that was the deal. That's what it was. And they appreciated that. And my dad certainly was much easier coming to grips with it than my mother was, because he had just heard it from the horse's mouth. And this is what I want to do. And this is why I want to do it. He got reasons and it was accepted. So we went from there and learned a lot. And
what about you, Daniel? Was your story the same?
No.
Did you grow up in the business?
No.
Sort of.
Yeah, sort of. So I started working with them, like we said, at a young age, about 15 or so. But if I'm being honest, I think it was, this is kind of what I fell into. It wasn't planned, I don't think. It just kind of happened. I never really had that mindset that, I looked down upon the work at all. To me, it was work. I just went to work, did my job, and that's what was expected. But yeah, I didn't really have a passion for it. But it's like you in your introduction, this is a business that you can do really well in. And we absolutely need to do a better job of encouraging people to get into this business, because our industry, it's important for our future in general. And I think that the more we talk about this stuff, the some of the things you guys are doing here, just making it known that this is fun stuff, and the conversations that we're having right now. I mean, this is, to me, it's huge for our future.
Well, and I probably should tell our listeners how we got here today and how you guys ended up here at the podcast. So we got an email probably about 2 months ago from, I think it was you, Daniel, said, "Hey, listen to the podcast and really struck a chord with us and would love to talk to you about it." But the more we dug into that, found out, Tory, I think you were listening to the podcast that Brian and I did with Aaron Witt.
I've always been a big construction nerd, dirt nerd, pipe nerd, so I've been following Aaron for a while and listening to his podcast. And you guys were on there. I was catching up a bunch of episodes one week, and you guys were on there, and I remember listening to it, and I was playing in the background, and I just remember hearing the point when Brian said that, he just struggling to get up in the morning, and he looked in the mirror and was just like, man, this isn't fun anymore. Like I got to do something about this. And I hit pause and I emailed it over to Daniel, because we were literally, without either one of us saying anything, because we're not complainers and we're not wallowing in our pity there, but I sent it to him because I could just tell that he was in the same position I was. And, he listened to it, and then at the end of it, he walked to my office and was just like, wow. Like, you just hear it straight from the horse's mouth that, like, you can be in that position and just, take charge of it and make the best of it. And I guess that night you just shot these guys an email, and
I'm so glad you did. Matter of fact, when I took that email and I went back to Brian and I said, "Brian, check this out. These guys heard the podcast, they heard your story, and they actually hit pause at the moment where you said you weren't having fun anymore and that you had to look in the mirror or something had to give." And I said, they're living what you were living 5 years ago. And so we jumped on a call. We got on a Zoom call, and we talked for about an hour, just what you guys were going through and some of the things that we'd experienced, and then invited you guys down here. But two things out of that. Number one, the fact that you guys were willing to do something about it. Hats off to you, and that you reach out. And the second thing too is that why can't we work together? Why can't we talk to each other? Why can't, I get that there's some competitive issues and it's hard to call your competitor in the market, but these are things that we're all going through. We're all experiencing the same problems right now. Let's work together to try to find these solutions. So I really appreciate that you reached out to us, and that we're getting to walk along this journey with you.
We were happy to that you guys got the story out there. And, to me, it was just a relief, just to know that we're not alone. People are going through the same stuff, and I'm 100% with you. Why can't we have these conversations?
Yeah, we've got to. We got to tackle this as an industry.
I mean, we were extremely humbled that you guys, immediately responded and took the time, set up a Zoom call. I didn't know what to expect. I know it was going to be a 10-minute, hey, pat on the back, buck up, pal, it's going to be okay. But I mean, it was absolutely everything I could have, you would have hoped that it would have been. Nobody had any agenda. It was just, one organization helping another. And I mean, I could just tell from the podcast and looking through your website and some of the YouTube stuff, the magnitude and the efficiency your organization has here. And it's extremely impressive. I mean, and for you guys to take the time out of your day, then, to speak with us, and then in Sense Communications, and then having us down here. I mean, it's truly a blessing, and we're very humbled by the opportunity to be able to talk to you guys, because we're all in it together. We're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Nobody has anything to gain or lose, or nobody has anything to lose from either of us talking to each other, because like you said, it's all common issues, and it's not even just our trade. I mean, it's just, quote, blue collar in general. Like, all trades are having this issue,
right?
And
it's up to us. I mean, we've got to take ownership of that, and we've got to be the ones to change that story and change that narrative. Let's talk about the pains, because I guarantee you, there's somebody listening to you on this podcast right now that's going to hit pause at some point when they hear what you guys were experiencing and what caused you to send the email, what caused you to reach out. What were you feeling? What was the overwhelming part that you guys were starting to experience?
I think a ultimately it's trying to deal with growth is probably one of the most challenging things that we've been faced with recently. Like Tory said, we just looked at each other and we're like, we're going through the motions. So we knew that something had to change. We didn't really know exactly what it was, but after hearing you guys and Brian's story and, it just gave us a direction to move in to try and get over this ceiling, as Tory likes to call it, that we've hit. We got to a point where we've grown to our capacity for how we manage things right now. Just our main guy leaving and hearing you guys, and it just kind of propelled us into the direction that we need to go in.
I started down the site development, the civil end of our stuff. At 20 years old, we had an opportunity to start doing that because to me, the work is what's fun about it. I love iron, I love pipe. Daniel likes building people. I like pipe and dirt and the work. I like building stuff. I did this. I started down this path for the work because the work is what I love. Maybe not physically shoveling every shovel of dirt, but the work in general. And I found I'm still currently in it, working to get out of it. But I'm in a position in the company that doesn't even allow me the time to get out and enjoy the fruits of our labor. Because we're not doing it to turn dollars. Yes, dollars have to turn and profits have to be made, but to me, I'm in this for the work and the iron and the experience and being out there and being a part, transforming something. And I'm stuck in a position, in a position in a cog in this wheel that doesn't even facilitate me to get out of my office. And it's like something's got to change because there's no point in me even doing this if I can't even enjoy the part of the business that I enjoy the most.
Which is the work.
Which is being around or planning, scheming, all that stuff.
The thing that got you into it in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a challenge, and especially when you start to experience growth, right? You're doing something right. You're getting more and more opportunities to bring on new clients, do more projects. But with that, everything's got to grow. Your people, your systems, your the accounting, just all of it has to grow at the same time. And that's the piece that gets us bogged down and gets frustrating too. But I think you guys hit, growing, trying to figure out how to grow, turnover, which plagues not just you guys, that's all of us. We struggle with that. Our entire industry struggles with turnover and keeping people. And how do you make sure that you're going to spend the time and money to bring someone on and onboard them and teach them how to do the work, that they're going to stick around with you? And then, hitting that ceiling. And I think that's the part there where that's where you really start to lose hope. It's like, all right, I don't know where to go from here. I don't know how to change this. And that's when you hit pause, that was where Brian was at that time. And I think Brian shared with you during our initial conversation that he had our accountant handed him that book. It was Gino Wickman. It was Traction, EOS. Yep. And I think Brian mentioned that to you guys. And is that something that you guys are going to start doing? Or are you implementing that? Is that?
Yeah, we're starting now. And obviously it's a process. None of it happens overnight. But yeah, the great part about the book, which makes you feel good, is that we're reading it, Daniel reading it, him and I are reading it separately, but in passing or 15, 20 minutes here and there, we can discuss because we're doing about the same time. We're in the same chapters, having conversations while they're fresh in your mind. And a lot of these principles that they're talking about there's things that we had already talked about, not saying that we're smarter than them, but when you hear all of them laid out together in a proven process and how they work together, it's like, all right, well, you're not completely doing it wrong, but it's like you need to organize it and make it official and lay it out there. And again, the word of the day for me is implied. You can, everybody has things that they think are implied, but until you lay them out there, you cement it down, this is what we're doing and this is how and why, you're not going to get any change.
Yeah.
So we read the book and we started trying to implement some of the EOS tools. And like Tory said, we're coming up with our core values and they've always been there. It's just the first time you've ever seen them on a piece of paper. And it was, through that process, we learned a lot about each other, learned a lot about myself. I know I did. I think you did as well. What we enjoy about what we do, and what we don't like so much. And so, those are some of the things that, we're trying to move in those directions so that we can get back to a point. I think we already are. We get back to a point where we enjoy going to work. I mean, I can honestly say that the last month or so, I love coming to work. And it wasn't like that 2 or 3 months ago.
I mean, I beat my alarm clock pretty much every day for the past month and a half now, which is good. You're ready to go. You can't wait for it to go off and get up and start the day.
Isn't that something? That just within the last couple of months, because I remember when we first talked to you guys, it was heavy.
Yeah.
At that time.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how just having a little bit of hope that there is a process, number one. Number two, that you're not the only ones going through this, and there's help. We can work together to do this. I think what I love most about EOS, and I'm not a big process guy. I've never been. I'm more of a shoot first, aim second kind of guy.
Right.
But what I love about EOS is it takes it in bite-sized increments. Like we walk someone through this academy and the office, and we talk about all this training, and they see all that, and they're like, there's no way. I don't even know where to start. Well, EOS does that for you. Like it takes this, breaks that down from 10 years to 3 years to 1 year to the next 90 days. Don't worry about this. Don't worry about getting to the finish line. What are you going to do in the next 90 days? And you guys started with core values.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I love what you said, that they were always there. You just pulled them out.
That's right.
How was that process? How did that process go over with your team?
So we decided, we came up with a questionnaire. It was 5 questions, I think it was. The first one was, what's your 1 year goal? Second question was, what's your 5 year goal? Third one was, what can we do to help you achieve those goals? And what can we do to improve your overall working atmosphere? And we sat down with it's our 7 guys that were leading crews at the time, and we were blown away by the answers that we got out of these guys.
Well, don't forget the most important questions that we're trying to dig out the core values was naming employees that, name 2 people on your crew and what values, just in general, that stick out, that they have that stick out to you. And then we took it a step further and we asked them to list 2 other people that are not on their crew, people that they see in passing or for a couple days here or across the job. And I had those 2 questions when I spit that idea out to Daniel. I was like, we're going to dig out some core values out of these people, like what they're not even going to know they're doing it, but they're going to lay out the guys that stand out to them and why they do. Well, it turned out to be that got turned on its head, because we found that there was people that were recognized, that we hadn't even, not that we didn't recognize them, but there was people that stood out to a whole lot of other people that didn't necessarily stand out to us, from the 50-mile away, twice a week view. And we were able to make some changes, and I mean, it certainly put the people in the right seat. I mean, it was very powerful. Through
this process, you identified team members that were exhibiting these core values, and you guys didn't even realize to the extent that was happening.
Correct. Yeah,
that's powerful.
We were blown away. There was a handful of the guys that were mentioned quite a bit, just in, they work hard. They, there was a lot of eye-opening stuff came out of it for sure.
People that were underutilized, and it was common knowledge to the people that see it every day. But since we had never really opened up any kind of dialogue like this, asking these candid questions of people, and we had guys. This was I guess we're up to 7 questions now on their iPads, and they had 7 questions, and they had a text box. We had 2 of them that ran out of page. They went 3 pages, and they ran out of characters. And one of them had to delete his answer 3 times and rewrite it because he wanted to make sure that he got it fit in the box.
And I mean, he was a guy that was leading a crew. Didn't want to be in that position anymore. And, through the whole process, he got shuffled around a little bit, and he's doing what he wants to do. And, overall, it's benefiting us as a company for sure.
He had somebody ready, and he had somebody ready under him to take over his spot that was also nominated, maybe not nominated, but noted by other people. So it was a very easy.
So people actually got promotions through this whole process. Like they actually
2 people got promotions, and I guess overall 3 people got shifted around.
That's so cool. Just so cool. And do you mind telling the story of the gentleman that you asked, "What do you want to do?" You shared that earlier today, and I thought that was pretty powerful too.
What do you want to do? Where do you want to be in a year? Where do you want to be in 5 years? And I mean, this is a fellow that had been in the industry for a long time. He's from the quote old school, and he gave the answer that any of us would ever want to hear. Especially people that were raised in that old school mentality. It's like, I'll do whatever you need me to do next year. What do you want to do in 5 years? I'll do whatever you need me to do. So mind you, we handed all these guys these questionnaires, and we asked them to fill them out at night. We said, you're not filling them out at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and turning them in, before you can leave. Like, give me 5 minutes of your life, answer candidly at home. So they did. We didn't tell them, but the next day we brought them all in. We said, guess what? We're interviewing you on these candid questionnaires. And none of it was bad or none of it was to criticize, but it was literally to have the personal conversation and let them know that, like, we care and this is serious, like, and discuss their answers and how they feel. And this fella happened to be the last one that we sat down with, and we're sitting there, and he sits down, and we're at Daniel's desk. I'm sitting here next to this fella, and Daniel pulls his paper up, and he's just like, this is crap. Like, what are you doing? And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, that's not the question. He goes, well, that's what I want to do. I want to do whatever you need me to do. So I can do a lot of stuff, but I want you to do whatever you need me to do. I was like, that's not the question. I'm like, that's not what we asked you. And he's, beating around the bush a little bit. And I was like, nobody has ever asked you what you wanted to do. Like, you've been working for 25 years now and very good at his job. And I was like, nobody has ever asked you what you want to do before, have they? Like, didn't even know how to answer the question. Oh, he thought it was like a trick question. Like, and we dug out of him, and he went in on a very, I'd call it a rant, but it wasn't a rant. It was just went in on how felt like he was put in a box and could make a difference, but wasn't in a position to make a difference. And I mean, we met with this guy for like an hour and a half, and I was just literally blown away. He still never answered the question, but the question answered itself. I was like, guess what? We didn't even confer about anything. And I'm like, done. I was like, you're taking over this key position. You're now going into a position where you can make a difference because you're passionate about it. And
yeah, because don't forget, we're in a position where we just lost one of our key guys, and we're thinking we're going to have to split that role and try and, get back out there and boots on the ground, that kind of thing. And this guy stepped up. I mean, it's been good for him. It's been great for us. It's
he still never said the words,
no.
But he said it in the 45 minutes on all the other ways we could be doing things better than we were.
Right.
And I was like, you shouldn't. I was like, our fault was we never made it clear enough to be able to have these conversations. Like, and that was what the whole point of this whole questionnaire thing. I mean, it started as trying to nail out some core values and see where they want to be. And then it morphed into just so much more, like talking to these people and empowering them to, you have to have a goal. Like we have goals. They have to have goals too. And, reminding them that you can't reach your goal unless you have your replacement adequate. Like, Daniel's been huge on having a protege. He's been saying it for a decade. Like, you always got to have a protege.
Yeah.
And you have to remind every one of these people that, if their 5-year goal is to be, the next level of leadership above where they're at, it's like, well, a whole lot of that is you have to get the person that's ready to take, you have to get them ready for you to step away and they step up. Well, guess what they have to do? They have to train the level below them. And like, this is no easy, we're going to move one person and the rest of them figure it out. Like, you have to take ownership of it too. And it's like, you can't go anywhere until you have somebody ready to move into your spot.
Yep.
And then the same thing right below them until the only thing you're replacing is a position that is, capable of receiving an entry level, employee.
Yeah. I know you guys have read the Extreme Ownership and believe in that too. Brian and I had the chance to do the Echelon Front field training experience probably a few months ago out in Nashville. But one of the things that the guys said was that if you are irreplaceable, then you are unpromotable.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd never thought about that. But if I can't replace you because you're the only one that knows how to do your job, I can't promote you.
Yep.
I got to have you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a great lesson that you're telling them. Like you've got to have that protege. You got to have someone that you're developing. And I love the fact too, and this is a fundamental problem that we're facing as an industry. Some of the issues that we're experiencing with people, we have to own that, right? We've caused a good bit of this, if not all of it, is that we don't ask. It's that simple. Like you look at what you were able to pull out of your team by just asking a question. You got a man that's been working for 25 years and was happy doing whatever you need him to do, but has never been asked, what are your goals? What would you like to do? And when you did that, his 25 years just came pouring out. And now I would venture to say you've got a better team member today than you did before asking that question.
For sure. I would agree with that. Absolutely.
He's on 100%. Like it's very powerful stuff to hear, people just go on and on about how they could make it better because they want to. Like people have to want to be better in anything to be able to be better in general.
Yep.
Like if you just go to work to clock in and clock out, well, I mean, there's positions for that, but like you're not going to be in a leadership role. Like if you're in a leadership role, like you might not have to be passionate to the nth degree, but you have to like what you do and be involved and try to grow. And it was very good I think he felt very happy that he could have educated conversations and could open up about it. We opened a line of communication that was like, it is okay to have different processes. Nobody here is saying that they're better than anybody else. Like,
I actually felt bad that they didn't feel comfortable coming to talk to me prior to asking the question. Like, what I do wrong is you don't want to come tell me that you don't like what you're doing or you want to do something different.
It's a whole new phase for construction in general. Like what you guys are talking about, communication, that was a huge thing when you and Brian, I heard, it's devoting so much time to just communication training.
Yeah.
And, because we were so into what listening to what you guys had to say, because we were going through that moment and really taking it all in, like the importance of communication is unbelievable. Like just as a whole, construction just been rough and tough for forever, right? Well, we're not quite as rough and tough. We're still rough and tough at the work, but we can't just be as rough and tough with each other as it was forever. And communication is huge. Like, I mean, nobody owns anybody. It's not, that kind of mentality that it was, 50, 70 years ago, but being able to talk to these people and have their voices heard. I mean, not every idea gets taken, but to be able to have the conversation, it needs to be there. And trying to set that tone that it is okay to just talk about what you got going on or what you think could be better.
You're right. And, and that's not, you said you were wondering how have I created an environment where they don't want to come talk? I love the ownership, but it's not you, it's our industry. Like our people in this industry believe they're not supposed to talk. I'm not supposed to go and talk about what my goals are. I'm supposed to do what I'm told, and I don't ask questions. I certainly don't ask why. And us as leaders, we're talking like we shouldn't have to explain why. I think in the past where it was so easy to get employees, like people were lining up and you could go and replace somebody just like that. You mentioned that earlier, we just took that for granted. Well, that's not the way it is anymore. No. And people need to feel a part of something. They need to understand what is my purpose and how does it contribute to the bigger plan?
Yeah.
And I think you guys taking those steps to empower them, as you said, and give them that voice.
And
it's huge.
I think we decided that this is something that we're going to do probably once every 6 months or at least annually. We're going to ask these questions again, try and figure out how they're making out on their 1 year goal. And if they're not, then what can we do to get you there? But also, I think you're going to see over time, guys, what they want to do, it's going to change. And so it was so big that I think it's absolutely going to be a part of what we do moving forward.
I can't help but think, and I got to ask this question. So, Dad's 70 now. What did Dad say when you came back and said, Dad, we're going to start talking about core values? We're going to talk about EOS. We're going to ask these guys about their feelings and their goals. And how did he take that?
Yeah, well, it went over like a turd in a punch bowl, as you'd expect from a 70-year-old grizzled, construction veteran. But I sat him down and I said, what do you think about core value? We were having lunch. I said, what do you think? What comes to mind when you hear the term core value? And I said, we're going to establish a set of core values. And he's looking around with a smirk, very uncomfortable, right? Like very uncomfortable. So I said, it's a bunch of yuppie BS, right? And he smirked again, which meant yes. And I said, all right. So I whipped my phone out with my notes where I had them jotted down as they come to me, and I put it in front of him. And he's reading them, and he's just kind of, just still rolling his eyes a little bit. And I said, well, you know what those are? And he looked up, and I said, I said, you created all of those core values. I said, you never said any of those words or with the definitions that I put below them that pertain to who we are. I said, but you did all of those. They were all implied.
It's who he was.
I said, you raised me by those values, and you taught me how to work with those values, but you never said any of it. Like it just came out. It was just the way that it was implied. But it was easy for it to be implied when you got 5 people and you're all, doing the same thing, and what's not okay is not okay. Well, the reason that it's okay is X, but guess what? That's because of integrity. Somebody might not see it. Somebody might not see it, and you might get away with it, but that doesn't mean that it's okay. Like these people hire us because we do the best job and they don't have to worry about it. Well, that's what integrity is all about. We don't lie to them. I mean, and he finally came to grips with the idea that the whole point of this is just to make it known that whether you got 2 people working together or 200 people, everybody needs to know the values that you instilled in me and us, and those are the level of standards we hold people to. We just never talked about it. Like, in order to work for us, you have to exhibit and understand these values. Like, you have to do it to work here. But no, we've never said it. Like, we've just made those judgments, in talking and interviews and on the job and situational stuff. But it was never just written down and made official. And he changed his tune after that. Once he realized it was
a great way to spin it, though. That was brilliant in how you pitched that to him, because I imagine for him that does sound a little fluffy, right? That's not anything that generation used to think about when running a business. But what a great way to spin it. Like, Dad, these aren't just core values we picked off of a list. This is who you are. This is what made you successful, and this is what's going to make somebody else successful.
And following
that.
It's not. I was like, these aren't even my. I said, not that I don't own these core values. I said, they're not my core values. They're core values that you created when I was 1 year old, or probably long before that, because the person you were and had those values for whoever you were working for before that. I was like, but these are your core values. The only thing we're doing is just making it known to. It doesn't matter how many people we have working here, but they're all going to own. They're going to understand them, own them, and conduct themselves according to those values.
Well, guys, from what I've heard, you've got a fantastic culture. You got a great team that I know you're both very proud of, and that you're excited to see what's next for TJT. What are you guys looking forward to? What's the next 5-10 years look like?
Well, we're looking to get some more right people in some positions. I need some project management. We need some better processes there. That's a big goal of mine, is to try to get some more processes that are sustainable without me doing all of it. And that's going to allow us to divide and conquer here. And we have some good leaders on our team here. And I think we're going to do just fine, but there's no dollar amount, number amount, anything right at this moment. The goal is to just get some better processes in place and create something that we can build from and move forward and do more. For me, it's bigger and better work, better meaning more fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we talked about it, but the focus is like, that atmosphere where people want to be. They want to come to work. They want to be a part of the team. They want to do a good job. I think that's definitely a goal for sure, is to hone that atmosphere, just so that we can build the team, for sure.
Well, you guys are on the right path. When we get calls and people ask, the three things that we always go to, and there's a ton of different things, but the ones that we found the most benefit was starting with communication. We do this DISC profile analysis, and just all it is finding out, all right, Daniel, how do you like to communicate? What's your natural style? And how do other people like to receive information? Like teaching our leaders how to communicate, like they've never had that kind of training, but it was critical for us to be able to go to the next step and start changing these things. We had to learn how to talk to each other. Mm-hmm. And in our industry, we just don't do a good job of that. We don't talk enough.
Right.
And then the EOS thing, that's the second, that system and breaking down our long-term goals into 90-day bites, that was a game changer for us. And then couple that with the extreme ownership thing. I think you got a recipe for success there. You guys are doing all the right things. And it's, what you were experiencing a couple months ago, I promise you 95% of the construction companies in this country are experiencing those same things right now. But very few of them have made the steps that you've made and decided to look in the mirror and say, what do we do? How do we change this? Because what we're doing right now is not going to work and we're not having fun.
Right.
Yeah. So you having fun again?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's certainly exciting to wake up every day knowing that you're making steps in the direction, the direction of progress. So it's good.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you, last question, you got somebody's listening to your podcast right now. And what do you tell that young 15-year-old that was, well, not 15, that's when you guys started. Say you got someone who's getting ready to graduate from high school and they're wondering, they love construction. They love heavy equipment. They love pipe. They love work. What do you tell them about the industry?
I think it's fun. It's not a fallback. If this is something that you're interested in, go for it. Don't be pressured by everybody telling you that you need to go to college or anything like that. Like if this is your passion, it's a fun job.
Yeah. It's there's so much in what we do. There's something for everybody. There's just seeing something transform. You got trees and bushes, and then at the end of it, you got a highway or a parking lot or a building pad or whatever. And you literally have something for everybody. You have the visionary who can see the whole thing from front to back. You have the technical people, that want to be that could be the best as an operator. Whether you want to be the best bike rider or skateboarder or whatever, you can be the best operator out there. And then there's so much technology involved with the GPS and machine control stuff, the drone, the survey, there's so much technology involved in our aspect of it. We literally have a piece of everything. Like you could fit anybody into our work, in what we do. From whatever your passions are, there is something for you there. Because there's so many different aspects of it that you can do. It's really hard to explain, but there's so much going on in the package that we all deliver that there's a piece for everybody.
No, I think you did a great job there, and that's right. People, they see our industry and they think, all right, shovel, hard hat, dirt, boots, and they don't think about it. Hey, we got engineers on staff, we got drone pilots, we got simulator operators, we've got all these different pieces of equipment. We've got estimators, project managers, accountants. All that goes into this industry, and so you've got to have all those skill sets too. And we're gonna get there. I believe we will. But we got to work together, and we got to help each other. We got to change the narrative, take back control of the story. So thank you guys for being willing to share your story today. If I'm a TJT employee and I'm hearing this thing right now, I'm extremely proud of my leadership and where this company is heading. So I'm sure they're enjoying listening to you guys right now.
Yeah. Well, again, we appreciate you guys having us down. It's a beautiful facility you got here, and we're humbled that you had us come down.
Well, thank you guys for reaching out. Thank you for all you're doing, and wish you the best.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thanks,
All
Brandon.
right. Thank you for listening to this episode of Give Us the Dirt. Our podcast is powered by Hoopah Grading Company in Charlotte, North Carolina, and produced by Well Run Media and Marketing. Visit our website at giveusthedirtpodcast.com and subscribe to this podcast on Apple and Google so you never miss an episode.